Hi, everybody. I'm going to present today about tort liability and what I've learned for my class. So, what is tort liability? It's an actionable or civil wrong committed against one person by another that is independent of contract. It involves state law, and it's based on the idea that people are accountable for their actions. There are two types of tort: intentional versus negligent. So when we're talking about tort liability, we're talking about a wrongdoing, and then the liability is the result from the act that's committed involving negligence. So the first case that I found was Mitchell versus Cedar Rapids Community School District. So there were two teenage students, one who was a 14-year-old girl and one who was a 19-year-old boy. And in the school classroom, they were very affectionate towards each other, and the teacher was aware and had conversations about them, about needing to be safe, but hadn't taken no precautions to discuss with the teacher. They were 5 years apart in age. They decided one day together, both of them also had special needs. They decided together to skip school. The school district did have in place a system where the parents would get notified at the end of the school day when they left, but the parents felt that it was, since their child had special needs, they needed more communication. When this female and male left the school building, the young girl was violated while another friend watched and shot her with BB guns. The school did not take extra steps to contact the parents, and the school was found to be 70% liable. The proactive measures that I think could have been taken were to have systems in place for students with special needs, with higher levels of communications with parents when they left the school building. Reactive measures would be to implement these communications after something terrible has happened, and probably put systems in place for everyone. The next case that I found, which was actually sort of heartbreaking for me because this was a friend of mine, it was the Barrett versus USD 259. Alex Barrett was attending football conditioning, the first mandatory practice, and it was very hot outside. He stated he did not feel well. He was allowed to get a drink and sit out. He later collapsed on the field and died the next day. His mother, with his estate, sued USD 259 for wrongful death. With football being an extracurricular, there is a recreational exemption for liability. So that part was dismissed. And as far as I could tell, they were still debating if the negligence was gross or wanton. Proactive situation would be to check the CASHA rules for hot practices, maybe not have been practicing it in the heat of the day and go early in the morning or late in the day. Reactive measures would be to not have any conditioning prior to the school building when it is hotter than a certain degree. The next case that I found was Montana Lance versus Louisville ISD. This was a young teenager. She had a 504 plan, and she reported that she'd been bullied at school. Eventually, she committed suicide at school, and her estate sued the school for negligence. The court found that there was a proper paper trail for documentation to deal with the bully and with Montana, and the district was not held accountable. I felt like the district was very proactive in this case. They had documentation, they followed the correct steps, and therefore did not need to be very reactive in their situation. The next case I found was Johnson Johnson versus Millard School District. This one was an elementary school, which I found to be interesting because that's the area that I know the most about. A young boy was taught how to play London Bridge in music class. The teacher told him how to do it, did not demonstrate how to play, and then turned her back on the group. The child, when locked up, was shaken and thrown out into a bookshelf, resulting in the need for 50 stitches in his head. The court did find that the teacher was negligent and rewarded the family monetary damages. This one, especially with elementary school, you just cannot turn your back on small children. And so proactive measure would be, demonstrate and model expected behavior. Make sure that you have your eyes on the class at the whole time. Reactive measures would be, no physical touch in music class. The last case that I'm going to discuss is Barnett versus Caldwell. In this case, a teacher left the classroom in order to use the restroom. She asked for a colleague to listen for her class, and during her absence, a child tackled another child to the floor and caused major harm, like an artery was severed or something like that. The courts ruled that because she was taking care of a personal need and could not have foreseen the consequences, she was not negligent. This one is hard for me because you have to use the restroom, but you cannot leave students unsupervised. So more than asking your colleague to listen for your class, you need to find another adult in the building who can stand in the doorway or can stand in the hallway and listen for both classes. My opinion was, from the teacher perspective, that she might have been a little bit negligent here, but I do understand personal need. Proactive would be to have policies in place for them to know who to contact and cover the classroom. Reactive measures would be you're not leaving the classroom without someone in there. Call the office, put policy in place where if you are not in the classroom, then you can be held responsible. The need for professional ethics. Professional ethics is just like a code of conduct for your job, a list of responsibilities that you must uphold. While doing our reading, teachers are held to 3 legal duties, and this would be a good place to start. We must instruct, supervise, and provide the safety of children. The benefits for this would be all can understand the duty. There's no question when there's been negligence, and it would be a protection in place for the district school staff and students. Here are my references, external links where you could find the court cases. It was interesting to learn about this today. It's good to know that you must have intentional versus negligent. I think this is something that all teachers need to know about.